Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Leadership English. Today, we're going to talk about 3 proven communication strategies for global executives. Now, this comes from almost 20 years of working with non native speakers who are professionals and executives. Now, the first thing I want to know is this you? And if this is you, you are in the right place. Do you worry about your English not being good enough? Do you worry about whether you sound smart enough or if other people sound smarter? Because remember, a big part of it is in your experience, you are smart enough. It's the insecurity that you sound smart enough because of English. Do you worry about the fact that you know you could be a better leader? Like, do you worry that your team and your company is getting the best version of you in order to drive the results that you need? And do you worry that the training that you have right now is not doing what you need? And this is absolutely normal because what you need at this point is not more English. We're going to talk about what you do need. Now, the one thing I want you to take away from this is that you are not the only one. You are not alone. I want you to know that I've worked with executives at the highest levels, at the best companies in the world, and they all share these concerns. So knowing that, because a lot of times I get people that come to me and they're like, am I broken? Is this normal? How can I be in these positions and still have so much insecurity? How can I have studied English for 10, 20, 40 years and still feel this way get so anxious about presenting? It's okay. You're not the only one. It's absolutely normal. And the important thing is that you're always growing. So now that you know you are not the only one, let's talk about how you can take yourself to the next level. So, in the program that I coach that I'll tell you about later, we work on these 3 pillars: confidence, clarity, and connection. So, this is where, in again, almost 20 years of experience, as well as I'm bilingual and bicultural, I'm Mexican American, I've grown up surrounded by people that English is not their native language. This is the order that I find will get you the most accelerated results and will make you feel more like yourself sooner. So, the first thing I want to address is your confidence, because if you don't have confidence, you have more anxiety. If you have more anxiety from a cognitive perspective, from a science backed perspective, you cannot access the creativity and the language that you need for leadership. And so this is really important. And this is where I focus a lot on identifying what are your insecurities. So right now I'm going to give you a tip that will work for everyone in the program when we work one-on-one. It's really about understanding, what do you need? Why are you feeling this way? And how can we help you feel better and have a very specific strategic approach, not a generic one? So here, as you can see, leaders who aren't native English speakers must navigate additional obstacles, from cultural misunderstandings to biases that question their professional capabilities. Oh, that's the killer. Often resulting in exclusion from decision-making processes. This is why this matters. This is why I'm so passionate about taking you where you are, of thinking that you need more English, and really helping you understand and successfully approach improving your communication. It is keeping you from making the impact that I know you can have, that you deserve to have. And most importantly, you're going to be perceived as the expert that I know you are. Because a lot of times you think it's obvious that when you're stumbling through your thoughts or your expressions, you think, okay, they know it's my English. I don't know how to say it. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Once they hear your accent, once they know you're not a native English speaker, it's okay. You're not here to be an English professor. They understand that there's going to be certain grammatical mistakes. So when you do over focus on them, they think you're doubting your expertise, and that kills professional trust. Now, let's take a look at one of my clients, Rena. So, Rena is a CFO. And when we started working together, it was really interesting because, first of all, she's brilliant. I really admire her expertise, but her company had just gotten acquired by a multinational company. So she had to do her job in English to international stakeholders and executive boards. And so this was causing her so much anxiety. It was impacting her personal life, her family life, to the point where she was not sure she was going to keep this position. And so I'm so glad that she came to me, because she almost gave up this amazing opportunity because of the anxiety that the language component was causing. And it's understandable, because as a CFO, in your native language, it's already a struggle to communicate financial information to non financial people in a way that actually drives decisions. So, what we had to work on was how to be able to frame all of this complex information in a way that was clear not only to people who are not in finance, but people whose native languages were also not English. And this took a lot of strategy and patience, but it is so worth it. The satisfaction of getting that text of like, I just got out of another executive board meeting and the presentation went great. I could almost like feel the anxiety melt away. And so this is something that is life changing. So the first thing I want you to learn to do is breathe. And you might be thinking, great, I signed up for this amazing advanced training and you're telling me to breathe. Yes, I'm telling you, every single client I work with, and some of you are in the comments right now, you know that one of the first things we talk about is breathing. A lot of people struggle with breathing, but from a non-native speaker perspective, a big part of why you're not breathing a lot is from early on in your language acquisition. You probably stopped breathing because you thought it helped you hear better. Which, sure, if you're in a classroom and you're just doing that for a sentence, not harmful. However, if you're in a meeting or if you're in back-to-back meetings for 7 hours a day, this is very harmful. It is incredibly anxiety inducing. Also, it doesn't actually let you listen better. When you're breathing, I always tell people when lips are moving, your lungs are working. When other people's lips are moving, your lungs are working. What this does is it keeps you in the moment. It slows down your heart rate, so your anxiety is also dissipating. It allows you to actively listen. It allows you to be present. It allows you to be in that conversation and think more fluidly. Now, I don't want you to do this in high pressure situations. I want you to do this in every other aspect of your life. When you're watching a show, when you're listening to a podcast, when you're having conversations with friends or colleagues, because you need to build that habit so that when you do need it in the high stakes moment, you don't have to think about it. At that point, I just want you to focus on delivery and what's going on in the meeting. Now, a very specific tip is 3-2-1. So I want you to do this with me. You're going to massage your ears in 3 different spots. Now, as you're doing this, the reason that you're doing this is because it's very physical. The sense, you feel the blood flowing, you feel the relief of the massage. So what this does is any anxious thoughts that you're having, they kind of come back and you're channeled into the physical things that are happening with your body. For 2, you're going to go up 1, down 2. Notice that a lot of times, even myself just now, we kind of fall into this curved position. Part of it's because of how we sit at work when you're at a computer. Part of it sometimes is a safety mechanism of you're kind of shrinking into yourself because you're anxious or nervous. So when you do this, you immediately look more confident, even if you don't feel it yet. Your body is open. So what that tells your body physically is that, okay, if she's in this position, if he's in this position, clearly there's no danger. I can start relaxing. And then 1 is 1 breath. So this again brings down your heart rate. You're in a better zone. I do this at the beginning and end of every group session, every one-on-one session. I want you to do this when you wake up. I want you to do this when you watch a show on Netflix. What we're doing is it's like a Pavlovian response. We're training our body that when we're doing this, even when we're thinking about it, your body enters into this calm confidence. So you have to do it when you don't need it so you can activate it when you do need it. It is so powerful. It is really simple, but it's not easy. Like anything, right? Like it's simple to eat well and go to the gym every day. Is it easy? No. Now let's take a look at some of the benefits of doing this. As I said before, you're going to be able to listen actively. This is really important because oftentimes in the language space, you're told what you need to do, but you're not necessarily told how to do it. It's like, listen better, pay attention, don't plan what you want to say. Okay, cool. You probably know that already, but how? And breathing is a great way. It's a great how. The more you focus on your breath, you force yourself to bring in and like actually listen to the words that are being said. You can catch yourself. You have the energy to catch yourself in terms of, am I listening or am I planning? So this is the how. It also helps you think faster because the calmer that you are, the more you're able to access the English and the creativity and the solutions that you need because you're not in fight or flight mode. This has a big impact on your fluency. Because when you're breathing and you're listening better, it means you're more in touch with what the context of the conversation is, which means you're able to respond better and remember that you don't need complex English. So this all leads to better fluency, which better fluency, the more you experience it, the more confident you are about it. It's just this wonderful cycle of positivity where you keep proving to yourself that you're okay, that you can do it. Then, of course, all of that leads to less anxiety and the main goal, more confidence. Now, remember Rena. Let's take a look at how she did. So, Rena, the anxious CFO, we worked a lot on her breathing and to be able to be in the moment. And when she was able to breathe calmly, she was then able to access all the other strategies that we worked on for presentations and for being able to simplify complex structures. And now I am very proud to report that she did not quit. She's still in the CFO position and she is rocking it. She's so much more confident. She's also able to be much more present at home. Her sleep is better. A lot of you will notice that as we work together, a big part is making sure that the rest of your life is also good. A lot of times, the English insecurities and that anxiety that present at work, they're hurting your sleep patterns, they're hurting your quality of your relationships at home. And so I want to make sure that not only are you the most amazing English communicator, but that you also have a good quality life. Now, the second part that we're going to work on now that your confidence is getting better, we want to work on clarity. Now, clarity is interesting, and this is one of the differentiators with my program and other programs because clarity, yes, we work on storytelling, we work on simplifying complex information. However, because this is a program focused for non-native speakers, clarity also includes the fluency challenges, the English insecurities, the pronunciation, the speed, all these other components that you might be so focused on that you don't even get to the storytelling improvement. So we do all of this simultaneously because it's what you need. It's what will help you be able to be a good storyteller, no matter how good that storytelling strategy is. If your pronunciation isn't clear enough, if you're completely monotonous and you don't have any intonation, it's going to impact the quality and the ability for you to connect with people. So let's take a look here. This is what we talk about with the greatest communicators is they explain science or they explain technology in a very simple way. Yes. Everybody I work with, they all work in amazing fields. I just admire everybody that I work with so much because they're all so smart. But when you work in these highly technical fields and you work in these very specialized leadership positions, one of the biggest challenges is how do you communicate that to people who are not at that level? And this takes a very specific strategic approach. But when English is not your native language, you have a lot of other cultural issues that are impacting that you might not even be aware of. And so that's really important to know why you communicate the way you do so you can choose to adapt and communicate differently. Let's take a look at my client, Mission. He is a CTO and he came to me the same reason a lot of people come to me is because they think they need more English, which yes and no. What you need is more English communication, not necessarily more English. Of course, we always want to have fun learning new words and phrases and expressions. That's a part of it. But the main focus is understanding what the problem is. Those are all added benefits, the expressions and all that. But what was happening here is he's already in an amazing position. He's a CTO. He was a startup founder as well. But when it came to town halls, he's presenting to hundreds of people. It's a really great big company, but he knew he could do better. He knew like, okay, yes, I'm in this position. I'm here. I've earned it. I can speak to all these people, but there's something missing. I was able to analyze those town halls and really present to him, listen, it's not the English, it's the style. It's the communication in English. And so by being able to understand that that was the issue, we also opened up some other issues. The fact that small talk was a big burden, was a really big obstacle because he is from India and grew up there. And when he came here, he felt that the cultural differences in terms of pop culture, in terms of like daily stuff, not even business stuff, made him insecure in terms of not being able to contribute to conversations. So he avoided small talk and networking a lot. And that happens to a lot of people. You know, he's a big cricket fan. All the conversations that were had with the other executives were about the NFL football. And so this can really get in the way of like, well, I don't know anything about that. How do I contribute? So to be able to learn strategies where you can be in those conversations while still being authentic to your interests and be able to navigate those conversations so that you can feel you can participate. It's a game changer. So let's take a look at the other game changer, the triangle. A big thing that we talk about is simplicity. So I use this visual and I make my clients draw this on a post-it note and put it on their computers because it reminds them of what they need. So the triangle approach is to remind you that you want to make sure that you have the answer first. The way that Americans communicate is they always go for the main point and then details and context. And this is really important to know because now you might start seeing of like, oh, now I see why they lose interest. Now I see why there's confusion. A lot of times it's not because of what you're saying is incorrect in terms of English. It's just not what they expected. One of the simple examples that I use is, this happens a lot, when you're coming from a high context culture, if I ask you what time is the birthday party, and you're like, oh yeah, the birthday party, it's gonna be so fun, and we're gonna have music and food, and I have a bunch of cousins. Oh, you gotta meet my cousin, and da 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 da. But you never actually answer the question. The party is at 7 p.m. In your culture, that's a normal way of communicating. I like to say, from being from Latin America, it's a journey to the destination. With American English, especially corporate English, it's about the destination. And then if I need to know about the journey, I'll ask you about it. And so this is a big difference in terms of intercultural communication. And when you understand it, oh, you're like, oh, I can adapt to that. That's great. Now I want to take a moment here because when I say adapt, I don't mean change who you are. That is a big part of what I do. When I say, let's work on your accent, it doesn't mean eliminate it. It means to communicate clearly. It's always about being true to yourself. But like I tell people, the way you talk to a 5-year-old, a 20-year-old, and a 60-year-old, it's all different types of communication, but it's still you. So it's just to remember that adapting your communication doesn't mean changing who you are at the core. Now, if you want to know why, which I find that when you understand why you communicate the way you do, it's a much faster and easier approach to make changes. So if you're from a high context culture, typically these are collectivistic societies. The communication that's valued is a little more indirect. In fact, to be direct can be rude. And that's something that's important to know. When you're learning corporate communication, sometimes if you feel some defensiveness, it's because this communication style might feel rude compared to how you have been trained to communicate. So when you realize, okay, this is not rude, this is more effective, you're able to adapt it faster. And then if you're from a low context culture, these tend to be more individualistic societies, such as the US, where direct communication is valued. Now, this is something interesting because sure, we're direct, but there are other low context cultures that are even more direct. And so when I have clients that are coming from other low context cultures, let's say like Germany or Russia, sometimes the challenge there is you're too direct or too blunt. And so you need to work on being more diplomatic. So this is why when you have a training like this and with my program, it's really about understanding you and where you're coming from and where you're starting from. So if you're from a high context culture, your strategy is going to be very different than if I'm working with someone from a low context culture. And so this is where you're able to get better results faster because it's customized to you. And if you're wondering what kind of culture you come from, here's a quick graphic, gives you kind of an idea of where you might fall on the scale. I find it very interesting. And this is also something interesting to know of your teams. So if you are a leader at a multinational company, you're going to have teams from many different cultures. So as you understand these concepts and as you use them to adapt your communication, you're also going to use that to increase your empathy and understanding and be a more effective leader. Because then you realize, oh, that's why this team communicates in a way that I find kind of confusing. It's because they don't want to be too direct with me because that's not comfortable or culturally acceptable. So then that allows you to be an even better leader as well. So remember, get to the point, answer the question in the most direct way, simple way possible, and then you can provide more context and story. This will absolutely help you have more effective conversations and be much more efficient in your communication. Now, the thing about this is, okay, great. You're like, okay, I understand that. But what happens when I'm lost? Because a big part of what happens with my clients is they understand maybe that's not the most effective, but then they it's natural. You fall back into that pattern. You find yourself in the middle of like, oh no, I'm giving too much detail, but now I don't know how to stop. So I'm just going to keep going. And this is where this training specific to the non-native speaker experience is really helpful because I'm going to also teach you ways to pivot when you need to. And it's not just a theory, it's very specific. So let's take a look at these phrases. You can use one of these three when you realize that you're caught up in your old habits or maybe you went too far into detail. You can calmly pause because I want you to not have it be an awkward moment. I want your confidence and the energy to still be there. So instead of being like, well, I guess I'll just keep going, you can just breathe and say, you know what? To make a long story short, I think the best approach for this company is going to be consolidation. Great. So then what that does is when Americans hear these phrases, it's also a re-engagement point. They know like, oh, something important is about to be said. The point is about to be made. So this is really great when you see people because it can feel pretty awful when you're giving a presentation and you see everybody's eyes kind of glaze over and you can tell they're not interested anymore. And part of you is thinking, is it me? Is it my story? Is it the fact that it's after lunch? Like all these insecurities come back. And so this allows you to not only save face, but also save the presentation, make the point, keep the influence, drive decisions faster. And so this is really important that you not only get the theory, that you not only get the application and the practice, but you also have very realistic phrases and moments to help you in that exact situation. And this is the same with how to change the subject. Sure, that sounds like great. I can change the subject, but what does that mean? And so then you're learning phrases like speaking of, and that reminds me of. And these are all those tiny little moments of English that you actually need to be able to succeed. Now, remember Mission. So with Mission, it was so rewarding to see him grow, to see him understand that he had enough English. It was actually just the way he was communicating. And so for him, the triangle was a game changer. And I'm telling you, draw a triangle on a post-it note, put it on your computer when you have those important meetings. It's such a great visual reminder. It also helps you observe because then when you're aware that that's the way that's more effective to communicate, you're observing other people and their storytelling. And you're able to say like, okay, I like that style. Oh, I see why that works. And it just becomes a really well-rounded approach to learning as you're leading. Next up, we have you're more confident. Your storytelling is better. And now the connection. And this also tied with Mission. When his storytelling was better, he felt so much more confident in having small talk, in connecting with other stakeholders, in connecting with executives, and having those relationships. Because I'm telling you, and now it sounds trivial, but when you have those 2 to 5 minutes before a meeting starts where everyone's awkwardly waiting, if you don't just say like, how's the weather where you are? If you're able to have a little bit more nuanced conversation, if you bond over someone because you both love dogs, there's something really special about that casual moment, which means you're going to feel more relaxed in the actual meeting, which means they're going to listen to you and there's more trust. There's also more patience in that if you do make some mistakes, that likability matters. Whether we want to admit it or not, being likable in a leadership position doesn't hurt. And so there, it increases the chances that they're going to want to collaborate or work with you. That doesn't mean like liking dogs is more important than your expertise in your company, but it helps. And sometimes those are the moments that non-native speakers miss out on, understandably, because they just don't know how to engage in those conversations until you work with me, of course. So let's meet Zuleika. So Zuleika is an entrepreneur. And I was so excited to work with her because she was ready. She was ready to grow her business. She had gotten to a certain level of success, but she knew that she was holding herself back. And so for her, it was a combination of English. She knew the communication was a big part of it. What she didn't know, which is the third point here, is the resentment. And this is an experience, I would say about 30% of my clients experience resentment as part of their language journey. Sometimes that can be because of discrimination. It can be because of microaggressions, macroaggressions. There's a lot there. And so it depends on what your cultural experience is. If that's part of it, for her, it manifested in resenting people before she even met them, making assumptions that then made her communicate in a more defensive and aggressive way. and this was killing her business growth. Non native speakers often find themselves isolated from both social and professional conversations, impacting their ability to collaborate and participate fully. Yes, this is like we talked about with Mishit. This is almost everybody that I work with. You're afraid to be visible because being visible means being heard. Being heard means, in your mind, being judged because of your English. And so, a big part of the work that we do is getting your English confident so that you're able to communicate as a leader, but also to stop being afraid to be seen, which allows you to say yes to more opportunities. The amount of times that you might not even realize you're holding yourself back. Although I find that a lot of people are pretty self aware. They understand that they're the ones holding themselves back, but they might not realize how often in how many different situations that they're doing this and they don't need to. Something you can do is prepare. When you're going to go to a conference, when you're going to have a meeting with your colleagues or with the fellow executives, research who's going to be at the event. So, for example, I worked with a client who lives in Europe, does not care about football, NFL football. He likes soccer. But the owners of the company live in Texas and they're really big into football. So when you prepare and you research and you know, like, okay, it was minimal research. One of the owners always has the name of his favorite football team in the background of his calls. So really easy to know. So what you do for him, it's like, okay, look up the name of the team, maybe like who the main player is, or if they're still playing this season. This is not about being disingenuous, it's about being curious. So then he could start the conversation with, hey, I know you're a fan of the Longhorns. How are they doing this season? I heard they just won their last game. Simple. The person's going to be really excited that you remember something about them. They'll engage. It's a topic that they like. You don't have to keep talking about it. You can then pivot and they're like, oh, what about you? And like, you know what? I'm not really into football. I really love soccer. And then you can change the conversation. For example, if you have kids, like, oh, I take my daughter to play soccer every weekend. What about you? How are your kids? And then we get out of the sports conversation that you don't have in common and you go into something that you do have in common. But starting with that curiosity to get to the commonality can be so rewarding. And then you feel good. And when you feel good before a meeting, you're going to perform better during the meeting. Now, you want to also prepare personal stories. So, something that I do in my program is I make sure that you at least have 3 pillar stories prepared. And when I say stories, I don't mean like a 5-minute thing, I mean 2 or 3 sentences. You want to prepare the basics. I know you can say what you do for work and where you're from, but maybe a small anecdote about where you're from. It could be something as simple as, oh, like my family's from Mexico, um, which is why I love Mexican food. My mom is an amazing cook. What about you? What's your favorite cuisine? So just that short story, what that tells is I'm now opening the conversation to food, Mexico, mother/parents, and then I'm asking something personal about them while volunteering something personal about me. For example, if you're married or you have a significant other, one of the things I often prepare is how did you meet your spouse? How did you meet your wife? How did you meet your husband? Because non-native speakers, every time I prepare this question with them, they give so much information and people don't care. Small talk in English is about like 1 or 2 sentences back and forth. That rhythm, it's more like tennis. Whereas maybe the culture you're from, a lot of people maybe monologue a lot because the expectation is you're going to interrupt each other. In American conversation rhythm, we don't interrupt each other as much. It's an expected your turn, my turn kind of thing. So when you're preparing that story, keep it to the most interesting parts, the things that are going to inspire the most conversation. And it usually takes a while and it is so worth it because then you're like, oh, I have something I can bring up. I have something I can ask. And last but not least, ask simple questions. One of the things that I find happens is when I'm doing mock conversations for small talk prep is people will follow up with like 3 to 5 questions. It's too much. And you're probably doing it whether to prove that you were listening, to prove you have enough English, you're nervous and you're like, I don't even care about this topic, but these are all the questions I can think of. What it does is it's nervous energy. It's really hard to answer. You're like, what question did you want me to answer? Is this an interview? Did I do something wrong? So you want to make sure that when you do follow up, it's simple, stick to things you genuinely care about, Stick to things that you're genuinely curious about, and that's going to also make it a lot easier. And remember Zuleika, let's check in on her. So with her, we were able to address the resentment issue. And once we were able to identify that, it was like a weight lifted off of like, oh, okay, I don't have to be resentful of everyone. This is my business and I want to grow it my way. So we're able to really focus in on, oh, she just has like the best energy and personality. But before it was coming across as aggressive because of the resentment. And now she's able to really be that bubbly self where she's energetic and colorful. She's also this amazing, strong businesswoman. And so now when with that energy, she's able to go to conferences much more confidently. Before she would go back to her room and hide until the actual panel. And now she's able to go to those like little happy hours and the dinners and all the casual stuff that used to be really scary. And by the end of our coaching sessions, she was able to land, I'm so proud of her, this amazing, like highest level product in her niche, multinational contract. This was a game changer for her business and her confidence. So it's worth putting in the work. It's hard. Like I said, it's simple, but it's not easy. So now that you know the pillars, the flow, and you have 3 really solid strategies that you can start implementing now, I want to focus on the program. So as I tell everyone, if you appreciate the podcast and Instagram and YouTube and all these other resources, great. Please keep using them to improve. But if you want more bespoke coaching and you want to work with me one-on-one, my Leadership Communication Accelerator is a great option. So this program is for you if you've tried these. So for example, if you've already done the courses and the books and you've done other classes, you've worked on the English, but now you know, okay, that's not quite doing what I need at this time. You're ready for something that's next level. You're ready for that personal feedback. Then you're ready. Let's take a look at Giuliano's experience. And his was great because he came to me, same story of like, listen, I've tried other courses. I read books on books on books on books on books, which he does. And I love that. But this isn't helping. And when he came to me, it was just not a great time. He had gotten some negative feedback on his accent at work. And it was just one of those moments of like, after all these years, like this is still the feedback that I get. So it wasn't the most confident time for him. And so to be able to work with him and really be able to take him out of I need a perfect American accent and realize like, no, what you need is to speak clearly. It's okay to have an accent, but the clarity is important. And what you need is to be able to connect and storytell and participate in meetings. It was amazing to see him flourish. Not only did he flourish in his position, but he was able to apply and successfully land his dream job at his dream company. And so with that confidence, it allowed him to experience and explore options that he didn't even think were on his list of career possibilities. Now, is this the right time to make this investment? Yes, this is a significant investment, and this has to be the right time for you. It has to be something that you want, because if you want it, you're going to do the work. So here it's important to know, what is this costing you not to do? So if you're getting to the point where you're struggling, this constant insecurity, the anxiety, it's impacting your sleep, it's impacting your motivation, that's going to impact how you pursue opportunities. If you know that this is something you need help on, if you know that English is causing you anxiety to the point where you're having mental health issues, we got to do something. Now, if you know also that you could be a better leader for your team, if you're like, oh, I know I could mentor them better. I know I could drive better results and have a greater impact, but I can't express it, or I'm too shy to speak up. They need you. This is also costing you and your company potentially millions of dollars. And career growth. Even if you're happy, even if you're the CEO and you're like, yes, I have the level of career that I have, but there's more I want to do with my professional career. It could be being a mentor. It could be public speaking, speaking at conferences, being on panels, starting your own podcast. I've helped several clients start their podcast that really had a significant impact. These are things that you can explore when you have the confidence and the communication to do so. So let's take a look here at Arati's experience. So for her, oh, this was such a rewarding one as well, because not only was she often the only non-native speaker in the room, and she was the only woman in the room. So for her, it was not only, okay, I'm being perceived as a non-native speaker, but then I have this other situation where there's gender bias and it was really hard to speak up. And there were all these factors that were keeping her quiet. To have the strategy on how to be diplomatic, how to speak up, how to, when you're interrupted, how to regain that power. It was amazing to see how she was able to not only make a difference for herself, but the causes she was championing, all of these make a big difference in other people's lives. So her impact grew. And I even saw her do a video that she posted on LinkedIn in English. So now she's not afraid to be the face and the voice of her causes. And this is going to have global effect. And this is something that not only she deserves, but every life that she touches through her work. Now, this program is not for you if, and I tell this to everyone in the application calls, it's not for you if you just want more theory or if you want to learn about leadership communication in general. There are a lot of other programs for that that are wonderful. This is really about you and doing the work. This is not for you if you don't like personal feedback. A lot of what I do is I analyze your work, I analyze your performances, give you feedback, and help you understand why you do what you do and how to do it differently. So if that's not something you're receptive to, this is definitely not for you. If you're too busy, look, and we're all busy. If you are not ready to prioritize doing the work, and my program is super flexible because I work with busy executives all the time. That being said, it does require some work. It's kind of like I mentioned before, you can hire the best trainer in the world at the gym, but if you don't actually go to the gym and do the work, you're never going to see the results. Now, with the program, you're going to get so much. My favorite part is the accountability because a lot of times you might find yourself procrastinating and you're like, I know I should get better, but I don't know why I'm not doing anything about it. A lot of that's fear based. And so to have a partner now that's going to hold you accountable, it's going to motivate you. If you choose to have one-on-one coaching to be able to get that direct, immediate feedback so that every session you're feeling growth. We have group sessions. We have a LinkedIn Impact Lab so that your virtual executive presence is also improving. The personal feedback that you get is amazing. It, like I said before, not everybody needs the same thing. If you're coming from a high context culture, you're going to need something different than someone from a low context culture. So it really becomes about a very customized experience. And what you'll gain, of course, this is my favorite, to be able to say what you want, when you want, how you want it is everything. So to be able to walk into any room and know that you can communicate what you need and what they need clearly and concisely is so empowering. Having all of these positive experiences lead to more confidence. It leads to the ability to think quicker, to respond quicker, to be able to earn trust, to know that people see your expertise, not your English mistakes is so powerful. It's just that next level. And no matter what, I'm telling you, I've worked with the best companies in the world and executives at every level. There's always some insecurity there. And so to have the opportunity to overcome that, what that does for you as a leader, what that does for you from an empathy point to help other leaders is wonderful. To be able to have higher influence and impact, to be able to say yes. This is where you're no longer have to say no because like, oh, I don't know if I can get on stage or, oh, I don't know if I want to post anything. Like I'm too scared. Now you can say yes because you have the support, you have the feedback, and you know that what you're doing is going to be not just good, but great. So if this is a program that you're ready for, apply today at tanyasuarez.com/leadership. I'm so excited and proud of you that you took the time to learn today. You're walking away with 3 very specific strategies. I hope you're also walking away feeling empowered, hopeful, and I want you to know, as always, your English is good enough. You are good enough. Now we get to work together to be better, to be greater. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next time.